Hey everybody, welcome all, one and all, to Satsang. So glad many of you are already waiting to get started. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to be able to speak so consistently about that which to me is the most important investigation, the most important area that one could give their attention to in the entire human kingdom. There really isn't anything much more significant than the discovery of who you are, which is home. Home isn't a place, obviously. Right? Wherever you go, you make your home, right? We lose our houses, but we don't lose our home. We just make a home wherever we are, even under the most awful of circumstances, like refugees or people escaping. There's a sense of home that gets created. To know yourself is to come home. I mean, what is home but that place where the wandering stops, where everything is appropriate, suitable for you. Everything about it fits. You fit in it. It has no effort. And the only thing that can fit that bill would have to be the truth of your being. Nothing else could fulfill that, because where else can the wandering and the seeking and searching and questioning stop except in this discovery of truth? And discovering truth as your very nature, not as something acquired, not as knowledge in the normal way we think of knowledge, one thing described in terms of something else, the study and description and comparing of objects. That's the most basic knowledge, the knowledge of that which goes beyond what we can perceive with our senses, what we can examine, beyond all human research. Because it isn't something that is known. Truth is what is doing the knowing. Truth is alive, it's living. And knowing the truth and being the truth are one and the same. When you know yourself as you are the truth, knowing the truth. And that is home. That is the end of the search. That is the end of the struggle. It is the end of all external references, of all self-definition, of all identification with any particular set of attributes. It is a freedom from everything that bound you. And the only thing that ever bound you was believing yourself to be someone you're not. And I refer to it as home because it isn't the same kind of, you know something and it's very satisfying. Oh, consciousness. Oh, I am the truth. But that's the end of struggle. It's the end of suffering. It's the end of problems. So there's you might call it a feeling component, a heart component. That's why in Sat, Chit, and Ananda, which is really unusual, and it took me a while to understand it. Sat, of course, being or reality or truth or existence. Chit meaning consciousness, awareness, knowingness. And Ananda, which means stillness. That is, no motion, no seeking, no going after, pure contentment or happiness, which is the true kind of bliss. That's home. That's the home you never leave again, no matter where you go. It's not a place that you get stuck in. It's an inner space that that you cannot leave. It just comes with you because you are it wherever you happen to find yourself, whatever circumstances, whatever conditions arise. You never leave home. You're simply always that, because you are always that. It's not some place you get to and then you can leave. This is a big misunderstanding in spiritual practices, that somehow there's an attainment, that I was broken and now I'm fixed. I was in delusion and now I'm enlightened. You know, I was greedy and materialistic and now I'm spiritual. It can't be something that comes and goes. Truth is not something that can come and go. Home is not something that can come and go. Because if it does, then it is as transient and as impermanent as everything else in the world. So what is it that doesn't come and go? Is there any other query worth pursuing? What is it that does not come and go? The answer is stunning. It's simple. It's obvious, but we miss it. We walk right by it. Within your life, everything you've experienced has come and go. Your body's changed, circumstances changed, families changed, right? All sorts of things have changed. There's anything you can change. The style of clothes, your hairstyle. You can even change your gender if you want. Right? There's nothing holding you to anything. Right? And yet, throughout that entire thing, have not you been there? That you that has watched everything come and go. Every thought, every self-concept, every image, every impulse, every desire, every aspiration. You have watched those. But we never stop and ponder that. This habit energy of on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. We never stop and go, wait a minute. The next things just keep coming and keep going. Coming. Who am I that is sitting here witnessing all of this coming and going? Am I coming and going? It is such a simple place to look, and but it's so subtle. It doesn't move. It's ananda. It's stillness. And yet it is present. It is that stillness that is being and knowingness. And that is home. Where else would it be? That's home. The place that never changes. The place that's always there. No matter where your body happens to wander, it is always there. No matter what changes in your life, this is always there. This is home. This is truth. This is you. Truth is another name for God, which is another name for you. Oh, my dear friends, it is simply a matter of overlooking what, once you look at it, it becomes obvious. That's all the spiritual journey is. It is not a great quest. It doesn't require all sorts of mental or physical agility. It doesn't require enormously long periods of rigorous practice. It requires simply a willingness to look at places that you've overlooked. To listen when the teacher tells you, pay attention to that. It doesn't look like much from here. But there's a whole lot more there than you realize. And then we take that journey within, which simply means, going within simply means withdrawing attention from all the external things that have captured that attention. That's all it means. It means that the relationship with external things changes so that they're not as important anymore. And this quest to know yourself as you are without the reference to anything external becomes the impetus for your life. And if you do that, the path to awakening is short. It's direct. Just put your attention there. Nisargadatta put it this way, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what he said. But he said, just stay with the sense of I am without words. That is the sense of I am. The words I am point you. The words within point you. The word home point you. It's up to you to look where we're pointing. Because I can't do that for you. Nobody can do that for you. You have to look. And as you do, you find all of the things trying to pull your attention away. You see firsthand the enormous amount of energy that has habitually been pulled outward. Nisargadatta also said that when you do this, all sorts of things are going to come to the surface. All sorts of things are going to come to the surface. Be forewarned. Right? When your attention withdraws from the active engagement of it, you will see it. That which you hadn't seen before will be really obvious. It'll become into sharp relief. All of the energy that you just followed before, the impulses, the habits, the ideas and assumptions that you just followed before will suddenly be really obvious. You'll feel the pull. You'll feel the mind wanting, this energy of wanting to go back to it. Don't be discouraged. That's only happening because you're headed in the right direction. And when you turn and face the right direction, it may feel as though the wind is blowing. It may feel like you're headed upstream for a bit, right? But you're not. You're actually heading directly to the center of you, the home, where you truly dwell and always have dwelt. The idea that you left there is the illusion. As Mooji beautifully put it, I am, before the idea that I could forget or the idea I needed to remember was believed. Even the idea that you could forget and that somehow you have to remember is a belief. You've never forgotten. Now, this kind of direct statements of truth, the mind cannot fathom. It has to see some example, some evidence, some structure, something. It cannot accept what it cannot see. And that sense of identity, completely enmeshed with everyday life, cannot see the you that you've always been and could not ever not be. Consciously not be. So that which is not changing, which is watching, has never been sucked into the fray. Like the sky has never been touched by the storm. Space has never been touched by an explosion. It is completely without a trace empty, pure. And yet, without it, nothing can be. So, on that note, allow me to say hello to everyone. I'm over here and start to say hello, everyone. My computer's acting up a little bit today. It's a little bit pokey and slow. I got a computer solely, very inexpensively, very old, solely for the purpose of being able to run my good camera. So I have better lighting and control and that sort of thing. I hope you notice the difference. Roberto, oh, home in Madrid. So good to see you. And Rosario, also in Madrid. There's John in Scotland, Crispin in Switzerland, Ursula in Portugal. I am trying to work out coming back to Europe for a little bit. It won't be an extended stay like it was last time, but definitely is on my list, probably in the fall. Crispin, home is where the knowing of one's own wholeness is, right? So doesn't every healing process have to start with this knowing, no matter how a problem shows up? Yes, yes. When we are talking about healing, you can look at it one of two ways. The one way is something's broken and has to be fixed, right? You can even get that more esoterically with EFT, where it doesn't say it's broken on the physical level, but it's an energetic distortion and a disruption, right? That is leading to what shows up as some kind of a malady, be it physical, emotional, or psychological. That premise I found, and that was kind of the basis of the revelation that led to inner reconciliation, was that it started, and thank goodness for non-duality prior to that, because I wouldn't have gotten it otherwise, that it started from a premise that there was someone broken that needed to be fixed. And as I more deeply perceived the true nature of being, I realized that there was nobody there needing to be fixed. And that it was all the projection of the mind and its fears and its desires and all these other things that gave rise to the appearance of these things in our everyday experience. So for me, I start there. Now, again, I always point out I'm not a doctor, and I don't tell anybody you shouldn't do anything else, just that this is always a component. And the long-term solution to all our problems is self-realization. If you know who you are, you find you have never been broken. Then the things that come up, my body gets sick, fine, right? It doesn't touch me. Nothing touches you. It never actually has. It's only touched the false sense you have of yourself, right? It is only the false self-image that is affected by what happens in the world, not you. You are always the enlightened witness, just sitting and watching it, completely uninvolved, completely free of any preference or vested interest. You are always that. So no matter how a problem shows up, right? I guess what I should do is say there's a bridge between these points of view, right? Because the point of view I just gave you was the absolute, right? There's never been anybody sick or ill of any kind, emotional, physical, or psychological. The conditions have come and gone. Nothing more. They have never actually touched you. But now that's the absolute. And for most, that's a big stretch. On the other side, you have something's broken, I've got to be fixed. There's a bridge in between. That bridge is what I've called inner reconciliation. I'm reconciling these apparently irreconcilable opposites through simple compassion and love. Right? The reality that that you are not and never have been ill, right, is demonstrable only to the degree that your sense of self has become liberated from identification with the body. Now, that process can be a process. It can take time. And so in the meantime, just in the spirit of love, you speak at a level somebody can understand and address them at that level, and then do everything you can to bring them up or at least alleviate suffering. That's why I have adopted EFT, because it functions in that capacity. I can work with somebody knowing full well that that all of it is illusory, without having to tell them that, without having because you don't have to understand it. Nobody has to understand, just you, right? And so they'll have faith in this tapping, or they'll have faith in a meditation, they'll have faith in a mantra, not realizing, as Christ said, go thy way, thy faith has made thee whole. The faith, the conviction, the investment of love, the trust is what has made whole. And it takes us a while for us to divorce our trust of external processes and people and things, and realize that the only thing we can trust is our true being. That's what's been doing it the whole time. It's never been anything else. And so this is a different perspective when a problem shows up. And I can't give any kind of formula for it. This is why I teach people how to coach and facilitate, because I can't give you a formula for it, because every single instance is different. Every single person is a different level of consciousness, and this is the skillful means of which Buddha spoke, to speak at a level that somebody can understand, touch their hearts with unconditional love, create the place of inner safety that it will respond to energetically. That's what you do for yourself first, because we have to learn how to do it, and then for others, which actually you don't have to try. Once you do it here, it automatically happens there. The Bodhisattva emerges. You couldn't stop him if you wanted to. So beautiful. Thank you, Crispin. Hopefully I elucidated that. Shed like a big word. David Lane. So good to see you. Good to see you. There's Robbie in Romania. Eva, greetings. Liza, saludos from the sultry East Coast. A little warmer today, but still very. Let's get it, G. All right, Brent. Hello, Baba G. Hello, Jennifer. Dorte in Denmark. That's what my granddaughter calls me, by the way. Baba, not Baba G. just Baba. She just started doing it because she really couldn't talk very much, right? And so I became Baba, and it has stuck. I'm sure my other granddaughter, who isn't talking yet, just started walking. It's going to call me that because that's my name now. But it is an honor to be called that, actually. Hello, Carl in Ireland. Anya in Germany. Did I say Dorte? Miss Dorte. Hi, Dorte. Facebook user. Jonas. Beautiful. So clear. So simple. So wholehearted as always, JP. Thank you, Jonas. Quack. I get a high five, it looks like. Carl Lucy. The old me at these times. Oh, the old me at these times. Did you say something? Oh, you did. No, just hello from Ireland. Okay. Am I just prolonging the process, feeling kind of raw some days, and the chasm is too wide? Need Airbnb until I get home permanently? Thank you. Airbnb are great. Just don't buy real estate when you're en route. And you'll find that even the route, the path, the searching, the seeking has also been part of the dream. Right? that you've never been that either. That has all been just happening on the screen of Shiva being. So when you're referring to something as in the process, you're not referring to you. You're referring to just kind of these energetic patterns that are dissolving. You might call it the karmic momentum is slowing down because your foot's off the gas. So you cannot prolong the process or delay it. You cannot speed it up or cheer it on. Right? Why? Because it is a process of realization, the end of which the realization is there's never been a process. Now, if what I just said went right past a lot of you, please don't worry about it. The Sufi mystic Balyani made the comment, God takes the last step in the journey that never happened. This is the mystery of it, the wondrous mystery of it. This is a dream. Even the searching and the searcher are part of the dream. It is the dream of the universe. This is Vishnu asleep on the infinite ocean of being, dreaming a universe. And who wakes up? Does the guy in the dream wake up? Can the guy on TV change the channel? This is the question, who am I? It's like, oh, this is all a dream. Everything I think I am, the person I believe myself to be, is a complete myth. It's a complete fiction. This is why that word has been used, the idea of a dream, the metaphor of the dream has been used so constantly throughout all of spiritual history. Because that's what it is. Our night dreams are there as a breadcrumb to demonstrate, look, you can have a complete and total experience and it's not real. It's like Vishnu left breadcrumbs to himself to lead him back to awaken because he wanted to take this nap. Who is it that wakes up? In other words, who am I? See, if there's a dream going on, there's a dreamer. The dreamer isn't in the dream. Well, he is, but I won't go there yet. I won't go there today. Right? The dream isn't in the dreamer. Right? And the dreamer has no knowledge of the dream. And no matter what you do in the dream, it does not change anything about the one experiencing the dream. Nothing you can do can contribute or take away from it. Right? You know, if you believe yourself to be, Bob living in Detroit, but you're really Carl living in Ireland, you're dreaming you're Bob. You're going to have Bob experiences and walk around like Bob. And you're going to think, Bob wants to awaken, right? The last thing you're going to think of is like, oh my God, there is no Bob. This is that Bob doesn't exist. But you cannot have a dream, an illusion, a hallucination without somebody having it. Something is real. Something is not in the dream. That would be self-fulfilling. It'd be an infinite recursion, right? It'd be just one mirror facing another mirror. There'd be no end to it. Something's real. Something is having the dream, the illusion, the hallucination. Who is that? That's the question. Find that and you find home. And you find the awakening. Because that is who wakes up. It's not the one in the dream. It's not Carl that wakes up. Carl is what is woken up from. And then Balyani's statement becomes obviously true. God takes the last step on the journey that never happened. It never happened because it was a dream. And the last step is taken by God, who's the one sleeping. This is the wondrous mystery of it all. Embrace it. Embrace it. You've identified with the one in the dream, but the one who's doing the identifying is real and not in the dream. So you cannot prolong it even if you tried. But yes, stay at B&Bs. Don't buy any real estate here. Susan in New York. Hello, Susan. Ava, gee, would you please comment about this statement? But yes. And I've not yet found, I heard it from a Zen master. It shared it with me. And I haven't heard it from, and I don't really know where the origin is. But the statement is this, and it's a very unusual one that the Buddha made. He said, when I attained the great unparalleled enlightenment, simultaneously all beings attained the great unparalleled enlightenment. Now this dovetails beautifully with the Bodhisattva Vow, which is, suffering beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. And having saved all beings, no being has been saved. And it's directly related to God takes the last step on the journey that never happened. This is deeply mystical. It causes you to take a big step out of the sense of identity, the sense of being a person, which is what the Buddha did. Siddhartha became completely liberated from any identification with form whatsoever. And in that moment, Siddhartha disappeared and the Buddha appeared. Who is the Buddha? Buddha is that one that is awake. You find that when the sleep is gone, the awakened one is the Buddha. That's literally what it means. The awakened one. It's referred to often as a Buddha, as an enlightened being. A fully enlightened being is regarded as a Buddha. But when you're looking at it closely, right, you see that it is only one that has awakened. The mistake is that somehow everybody has to awaken, right? But when you look at it from the point of view of you in the dream, who are all these others that need to awaken? Are they going to awake? They're no more going to awake than the one you've identified with, because it's a dream. And so the Bodhisattva, when he says saving all beings, no being has been saved, it means that he's seeing through the illusion of an other. Everyone in your dream is you, not the you that is the guy in the dream, but the you that is the witness of the guy in the dream and everything around the dream. The guy in the dream is just a point of perception in which the self is looking at the self. Now you can see that this is the case. We never know anything or anyone completely. There's a million and different ways it can be perceived and viewed, right? We don't know all the different ways. And so we walk through the world with an idea of what the world is, and we interact not with the world, but with that idea about it. Every individual you meet, right now you're interacting with your idea of who I am. It's all we can do. So in a very real sense, you are interacting with yourself. Your perceptions, your beliefs, your assumptions. That's the only thing you interact with. So it's not that far of a stretch to realize, my God, it's all me. You can even look at it from the point of view of neurology and psychology and draw the same conclusion. Right? It's all me. There's yet this underlying conviction that there's something that exists out there. And that sustains this idea that the dream is objectively real, that there's somebody there who has to wake up. God alone takes the last step on the journey that never happens. You don't, I don't, Peter doesn't, Facebook user doesn't. Nobody but God takes the last step. And of course, it was all God. In your dream at night, it's all you. Yeah, they're faces of people you know, but the words, the things they're doing, are they doing there? Are they there doing that? No, it's completely subjective. It is pure mind. Mind simply divorced from the waking perception, and thus being able to create a completely different subjective world that knows nothing of the waking world. There's a little fuzzy borderline. Some of the dream stuff plops over into the waking, and some of the waking plops over to the dream. There's a little fuzzy boundary there. Right? But they're two different worlds. And your dream at night is just as real as this one. So who, yes, which means not real. They're equally real, as in unreal. So who wakes up? In Buddhism, the name for the one who has awakened is Buddha. That is what Buddha is. So since you already are that, act like it. Be the Buddha. When you meditate, it is the Buddha meditating. When you wash the dishes, it is the Buddha washing dishes. When you're at the gym, it is the Buddha at the gym. Why does the Buddha have to go to the gym? Because you do. If there's a bad habit or something you're struggling with, it's the Buddha, the bad habit, struggling. There is no separation whatsoever. There is no self in anything. There is only the Buddha nature. Or, looking at it from another perspective, the self, the infinite self, right? Which is, even the word self needs to be liberated from the idea of a personal self, a personal being. That's why Buddha chose to use the term no self rather than the self, which was common and still is. I use it all the time when I'm referring to the self. But he did that on purpose because of this tendency of our minds to try to make the ultimate reality into a self, a person, a God, a graven image, if you were, as it were, if you will. So this is what he meant by that. This is embodied beautifully in the 4 Bodhisattva practices. Number 1, becoming adept at distinguishing the perceptions of your own mind. What is a perception and what's real? Becoming adept at that. The second one is perceiving the non-existence of external existence. There's nothing out there. Out there and in here are one. The third, avoiding views of arising, duration, and subsiding. In other words, no time. Buddha recognized that everything, that the impermanence was so constant, that the change was so constant and consistent that you could not legitimately say anything ever existed at any moment. There's nothing but transition, transformation. Nothing ever really existed. This is what he means by avoiding views of arising, duration, and subsiding, because there's no thing that ever arose, nothing that ever endured, nothing that ever subsided. And then finally, the sweetest one of all, delighting in the personal realization of Buddha knowledge. It is the Buddha knowledge that I'm dispensing here. This is what's on offer here at G's Market. So that should give you a nice picture of it, right? Because it's part of the process. Remember, we start with the inward path by moving this, I'm not this, I'm not this, through disidentification with everything, until there's nothing left but the pure, innocent, original you, formless. It is kind of the divine knowledge and the divine and the human ignorance are one. I don't mean that kind of ignorance. I simply mean all of human knowledge has just fallen away as being temporary, conventional, and transient. And the true knowledge, home, that which does not change, is yourself. It is not something known. It is not some. It's nothing. It is nothing but you. At that point, the Bodhisattva emerges, which now begins to bring it all back to itself. Oh, so what is all this? Well, there isn't anything external. There isn't someone who needs saving. Now, you can't speak like that to someone who cannot understand it. So that's why I do other kinds of techniques and practices and gently bring people to the point where they can. Because remember, this knowledge was not something that was universally distributed forever. I mean, it's just all over the internet now. You can't swing a cat without hitting a non-dual teacher. But the vast majority ignore the need for preparation and overestimate their own seeing. Of course, because if you don't have the right kind of teaching and guidance, inevitably you're going to misinterpret what you experience in the wrong context. So it takes some gentleness and time and guidance and patience and all sorts of things. But the bottom line is that you already are that. Your mind cannot grasp it. It will doubt it. It will resist it. It will argue. It will have you in a debate, right? A debate you can never win because it cannot know this. There is no mental capacity or process that can know this. It is the Vedanta, the end of knowledge. Is that good, Eva? Does that help with it? It is a very advanced statement. And again, any of you who may be very confused about what I've just said, don't worry about it. All will become clear. Oh, hello, Playan from Sweden. Jane Tones or Tones in Canada. Hello, Jane. Are you new? I think you are. Okay, oops. Let's see. Peter, good evening from Italy. Wonderful to be here again. Thank you, GP, once again for sharing silence through words. I have no questions. I feel home simply listening to whatever comes out here now. Lovely. Lovely. Facebook user The Hague. Did I miss something? Is that you, Jonas, that you live in The Hague? Is that the idea? Oh. I thought you were in Sweden. Oh, somebody's in The Hague. So hello, who's ever in The Hague. I reached a state this week. This is Susan in New York. I reached a state this week and enjoyed a pleasant detachment from problems and panicked because it was too peaceful. And I'm not working on tackling problems. Now I can't get back to peace. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Please. This kind of thing happens all the damn time, okay? It is part of the deal. This is part of the path. Suddenly you sink into that detachment, which really means you're sinking into your home. You're feeling what it's like to actually be yourself. A disidentification has taken place. And the real you is not attached to anything any more than space is attached to what's in it. Right? But what happens? There's an entire mechanism, habit energy. That's the word Buddha used to describe it. The habit energy without beginning, because it doesn't actually have a beginning. Okay? It's too peaceful. Remember, the whole functioning of the mind is to solve problems. Damn. If it doesn't have one, what is it going to do? It's going to make one. If it ain't broke, break it. It's simply the way our minds, that is, our thought patterns and behavior patterns, have been trained to be. The expectation there's always some problem to solve, and the patting oneself on the back when it's solved, and the merciless punishment when it's not. This is just the pattern in which we have all been trained. So when you, for a moment, steps out of that, the mechanism is going to freak. Panic, as you say. You didn't panic. Your nervous system panicked because you weren't there anymore. It wasn't running the show anymore. Now, remember, this whole process is very primitive. It's reptilian stem. It's the lizard on the rock. It is simply trying to stay safe. And all of these various kinds of mechanisms, both those that just happened automatically in your family, the cultural ones that evolved, all of them, right, have a momentum about them. Right? They are all simply going along. And of course, you, prior to this moment, or any moment you might have, prior to an experience of that detachment, were just going along with it. So there was no conflict. So the process by which it has determined it's going to keep you safe, which is its number one job, right, just keeps rolling merrily along. And our sense of identity is entwined with it. Our lives everything is entwined with this, right? All of a sudden, something breaks, right? Even the interest in satsang and the interest in this kind of conversation will be like, whoa, wait, what's going on, right? Now, if it's just mild, it'll just go, yeah, it's okay. It's another spiritual idea, and it'll try to grab it and put it into the mix. But when something happens that, oh my God, and there's this feeling, and you feel yourself once again, the nervous system freaks out because the center of it has been pulled out. That sense of identity, which you are no longer indulging, has been pulled out of the mix. And what happens? The entire system feels destabilized. And what's the very first thing it's going to do? Panic and grab every resource at its disposal to try to get it back to where it was. That's what happens. That's what happened to you, right? So don't say, I can't get back to peace, right? It's not something you can get back to. It is who you are. And you felt it when, for that moment, you were no longer identified with who you're not, namely the fictitious character created by the nervous system to keep you safe. It's part of the whole process of human development, which operates completely automatically. This is the first three chakras for those of you who are interested in it. This is the first three complete. This is the map of the unconscious, that which is we have no control of, we have nothing until we hit level 4, which is the opening of the heart, which is exactly what you experienced, which suddenly it's bigger. And when that happens, the center around which the entire system is organizing itself is plucked out, and it just freaks out. This is the resistance we feel. This is we can get a tsunami of stuff, panic, and also, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then here's what it does. When you start when that sense of peace is now being covered up by all of that, it says to you, see, you can't get back to the peace. That's the same voice talking to you. It's say, oh no, you can't go there. Sorry, gone. Come on. Back to work, back on the treadmill. back in your gerbil cage. That's what it's doing. So it is the same mechanism. Tell you, now I can't even get back to peace. You can't get back to it because it's you. It's what you are. Now, the process is to become adept at this, to delight in the personal realization of Buddha knowledge, because that's what you experienced. You felt the Buddha. You always are. And in that moment, you knew it intuitively, instinctively, in the gut. Right? So now that it becomes a conviction held, even when you don't feel it. It's a vision that operates even when there's no evidence for it. This is the meaning of faith, by the way. This is what Paul meant in the Amplified Bible, that famous statement he made, faith is the evidence, a substance of things not seen, evidence of things not seen. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That word faith in the Amplified Bible is translated as perceiving as reality that which is invisible to the senses. So your senses cannot see you. Right? You just did. They were in abeyance just long enough for you to see yourself as you are. You were peace. You saw yourself as peace. Now it seems like I was peace, because the mind is now turning it into an experience that you had to keep you right where it wants you. It wasn't an experience. Any more than when the clouds part and you see the sky is just an experience. It's always there. It's the clouds that come and go. It's the mind that comes and go. But this is where we become spiritually strong, where we become powerful. Because now we are actively engaged consciously in this process of liberating ourselves from all the habit energy. The Buddha said, habit energy without beginning. Projectionless habit energy without beginning. And then you begin to see that it is all a fictitious construct of the mind. That is, the mind didn't create it. The mind, it is a construct of collections of patterns of thoughts. Nothing more. And you are not any of it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Does that help you, Susan? You are peace, my dear. You can't help. Don't worry about what is being felt in the moment. Peace is not a feeling. It's reality. It is Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. The nature of being and awareness is peace. Blinky Boo. Hello, Blinky Boo. Heart on the line. Is there more about that down here? Heart on the line. Again, the heart, the true meaning of the heart is simply the truth of who you are. The center, the home, the essence, the heart of the matter, the heart of the subject, right? Which means the absolute core of it. It's the heart of you. This is the true spiritual heart. The great heart of Christ. Robbie. Oh, two little arrows down, so it's continued. Is the idea of sacrifice true? Specifically, there's the idea of transaction, where you give up something for getting something else. By sacrificing, you don't get anything back. Is the idea of a sacrifice true? Oh, specific idea of transaction, do anything back. But what if you give up something simply out of love or for love's sake? Love is the returner, so full of it, it spills out. Maybe a word game, but it seems like it feels better in mind's eye. Yes, Carl, please. I didn't see it. I looked back there and I didn't see it. So if there's if I didn't cover it, just put it in there again. I'll try to get to it. Maybe I hit it just anyway by just dumb luck. The only thing you have to sacrifice is that which is not you. You can't sacrifice that which is you. The only thing that can be sacrificed is anything that is not you. Now, it feels like a sacrifice, that is a deprivation. We're giving something up for a noble cause because we're attached to it. We think it has value. You don't sacrifice something that doesn't have any value to it, right? You've got a pair of old shoes. Oh, it's I hate to give these shoes up. The sacrifice only happens when there's some kind of an attachment to it. In this path, we are severing all those attachments. So there's no sacrifice left. You don't have to sacrifice love because you are love. You don't have to sacrifice truth because you are truth. You can't sacrifice it. You can't let go of anything that isn't you. Can't let go of anything that is you. You can't. And you can't hold on to anything that isn't. Now, in this process of where we're still identified with the person, remember the person, the egoic mind, the false sense of self, needs all sorts of things to make it feel as if it is whole, as if it is real, as if there's somebody here. It needs all sorts of things. It needs encouragement and possessions and position and power and posture and all sorts of things that it needs. And so letting go of any of those is a real big threat to the ego. It's a huge sacrifice. It's like, oh, I have to give this up. But the ego is always transactional. God, I'll give all this up if you'll just give me heaven and that other Learjet that I wanted. It's always transactional. The ego only sacrifices when it's going to get something in return. Right? The ego is a ruthless businessman. Right? It's a beautiful story of Jacob, who became Israel, and all his business deals with God. It's very funny. When you really read the story, it's very, very funny until he finally has a degree of an awakening. So to the ego, it feels like a sacrifice. And then the reward may even be, okay, I'm even more spiritual now. I'm not going to eat meat anymore. I'm not going to use plastic bags anymore, right? It's very flattering to the ego. None of it has anything to do with who you are. Nothing has anything to do with the self-discovery in which everything else falls away. The needs, the demands, the feeling of deprivation just falls away. Right? There was nothing worth holding on to. And that which was holding on was not you. The only thing you could talk about sacrificing is my sense of identity. My sense of wanting to have a private, autonomous being rather than being the one. That's the only, and we hold on to that. That's actually the last thing we're holding on to right to the bitter end. Okay, I've sacrificed it all for you, Lord. Not yet. One more thing. The beautiful prayer, which I just wrote a blog about and I'm sending it out soon. Lord, replace me with you. It is the disappearance. It is the moth burning up in the flame. This is the mystic experience. The Siddhartha was gone. The Buddha appeared. Siddhartha never really existed. Right? It was just the false sense of identity, which was finally seen through. And the end result was the Buddha, which is you. And so you are in the process of manifesting your Buddhahood, you might say. So you don't get anything back, but you don't lose anything. You know, if you've got something and you really like it, and you find out it's been poisoning your water, do you hesitate to get rid of it? Oh, I really like that, but oh my God, it's not what I thought it was. This is not helping me. It's gone in a moment once you see it for what it is. A possession, an attachment of the egoic mind that does nothing but create suffering. Because the ego is nothing but suffering. It can't be happy. Understand? The ego cannot be happy. Happiness is the nature of being. Misery is the nature of the ego. It thrives on it. Problems to solve, things to do, struggling. Even the spiritual ego, I'm striving so I'm meditating 5 hours a day. I'm going to beat you to enlightenment. Thank you, Robbie. The Romanian contingent. I am you. I am you. Will Vishnu ever stop dreaming? Oh, the dream never happened. To you and to all from Naomi. Ursula says, hello, Naomi. David, the Buddha doesn't want to go to work tomorrow. And the Buddha won't or will. Yeah. Will Vishnu ever stop dreaming? Oh, the dream never happened. Yes. The dreaming God was really part of the dream. Right? The real question that pierces all the way through that is, who am I? Because I am the Vishnu that's dreaming. Right? At the root of all the dreams, there has to be somebody that's actually real. There has to be something real there that's having the dream. Right? It can't be in the dream. Right? For every illusion, there's got to be somebody that's holding the illusion. Right? The illusion goes away, not the someone. The illusion going away is what we call awakening, self-realization, enlightenment. Right? And what's left? The one who was never deluded. So, and yes, the dream never happened. It's a beautiful thing to ponder, but you can see that it had to have been like that. Yo. Okay, see you guys soon. Ava, thank you, G. Yes, it's all me, everyone. Everyone I meet is me. Everything is me. This is clear. I don't debate this, but the second part's not so clear. Did you finish that somewhere, my friend? Second part's not so clear. Well, maybe I did answer it. I got to it. So the Buddha may or may not go to work tomorrow. Brent, Brother G, how do you know when you're actually just focusing on a subtler object of awareness, sometimes referred to as the blank state, and how do you go beyond it? Thank you. Welcome. Today is a mix of mate and green tea. Well, whenever you're focused on anything, it is a subtler object because that which is doing the focusing can't be seen. It's simple. Even a blank state, right, where there's absolutely nothing there, there's nothing there except you, right, that is aware of the blank state. Remember, you, the reality, your being, the self, is beyond all states. It cannot be put into words. It cannot be categorized. It's beyond all opposites. It is neither blank nor not blank. It has no characteristics whatsoever. If it does, it's not infinite. So any characteristic is an object. And yes, over time, in the beginning, we remove ourselves from experiences, and it gets more deeply in from thoughts, then from feelings, and from sensations. And little by little, you get down to a level where the experience is extremely subtle, right? Where you're feeling and sensing things that are so subtle that we don't have words for them. And you find there's actually way more of those than the ones we do have words for. But we take the words and we generalize it. So we take a whole bunch of these feelings that we don't know what the hell they are, and we just, oh yeah, it's that. And the mind's satisfied. Okay, next margarita. But the fact of the matter is, when the mind isn't so actively engaged anymore, when you're more directly experiencing, the range and vastness of it becomes really obvious. Even the times when there's nothing there at all. Well, you're still there. That which is aware of the blank space. This is you. And you cannot bring that into focus. Attention can only deliver other. It cannot turn and see you, because you turn with it. It's reporting to you. So simply notice that. Notice that you are there. Who's that you? And on this very subtle level, there will still be this impulse to create something, to make someone. This is where the use of the term no self is so very powerful, because it's just a present. You just are. The only characteristic you have is being, or Sat Chit Ananda. You are, you know you are, and it's absolutely silent, imperceivable, dimensionless, timeless, cannot be conceived. Being is its only attribute. So you are not knowable. You simply are. Pure presence, pure being. And you'll notice the blank state, and then there'll be a whole universe in front of you. And there'll be all sorts of chaotic stuff going on, right? But that point of cognition, the point of perception, remains absolutely the same. What is in attention is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with that to which attention is reporting. And ultimately, even attention, even the mind, even the blank state just gets completely absorbed into the boundless me, right? Which is not one with or separate from anything, because it is all me. Does that help, Brother Brent? Short and direct answer, but I think I got it. You will be the judge, of course. Blinky boo. Nobody wants to stay at home, LOL. So much excitement out there. Seems like it's easier to just project outwards, where we see and hear all the aspects of ourselves playing out. Then the call comes to come home, or we simply look the other way, back to home. Beautiful. Yes. That oftentimes will happen. That's the remarkable story that Christ told, the parable of the prodigal son. Whose father gave him a great inheritance, and he went off and blew it. Had himself one hell of a good time, right? Ran out of money, right? Suddenly he's desperate. He's eating with the pigs. All his friends, who were happy to be there when he had the dough, all okay, well, moving on now. And he just decides to go back to his father's house. At least there I can get a meal. I'll work in the stables. He comes back and says, I don't deserve to be your son. His father, seeing him far off, runs to meet him, falls on him, and says, we're going to have a party. My son was lost and has now come home. This is the reception we can all expect at that homecoming. And so it is either just continued disappointment and misery and suffering, and nothing is working anymore, and we've run out of moves that turns us home. And for some people, it takes that. For some who may have already done lots of this work through multiple lifetimes, you could see that leads nowhere, that it's useless, and that we turn inward because this has already lost its taste. The salt is no longer salty, the sugar is no longer sweet, and we turn backwards. But until that moment of wisdom, most of us are very greedily pawing away. I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. Nothing could be more of a huge example of that if just the incredible power grab by billionaires and huge corporations, just unfathomable greed. But you can imagine the crash and burn that's going to eventually happen. I'm not predicting anything political. I don't know how any of this is going to work out. I look at the underlying states of mind that give rise to it. The actual events themselves, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I have some ideas, but so this is what happens, and it helps for those of us that are kind of clawing away at certain things to see these incredibly grotesque, overblown examples of it, right? 3 billionaires, instead of spending $15 billion on completely transforming villages, literally millions of people's lives through irrigation, water, all sorts of things they could have done to improve life, instead take a joyride into space that did nothing but pat themselves on the back. World's most expensive and visible midlife crisis. So you can see it reflected when you're wise. You can see where it leads. That's it. It's endless. It's one thing after another. It is insatiable. That's why it's a deadly sin. And all of us will have our full of that. You may not need to become a multi-billionaire in order to hit the wall, right? You may not even have that opportunity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be so extreme. It is simply, we reach for things, and the disappointments and the letdowns become more plentiful than the successes and the rewards. And we naturally kind of go, is this it? Is this all there is to it? And if the ego has grown thin enough that there's a place where a crack can happen, it'll happen, and some light will get in, and something will grab your attention: a word, a deed, a teacher, a book, a video. Something will just, and something inside will begin to be drawn towards it. Now, that's not the ego being drawn to that. That is the awakening self. That is the awakening Buddha. This, and from there you're on the path. And after a while, the sweetness of this becomes so overwhelming that you naturally turn towards it. If something grabs your attention, you go, it's nothing compared to this. Nothing. Because nothing can compare to it. This is home. This is what you've been looking for your whole life. So, thank you, Blinky. Good to have you with us. You're on the first met on my show. This is wonderful. Kanali Odevi, feeling devastated today. The heart wound is up. Words of hope. How to not identify with the sufferer. How about this? when you take a phrase like how to not identify with the sufferer, I want you to feel that for a second and notice how your mind is using a non-dual idea and using it in a way that's actually keeping you in suffering, the heart wound, feeling devastated, right? So set that aside and don't ask yourself how, and instead do this. Turn all of your attention to the experience that has been called suffering. Put all your attention on the heart wound, all that feeling that has been labeled devastated, right? Whatever it might be, broken heart, a huge disappointment, a breakup, whatever it might have been, right? Just go directly to the feeling. Now, the moment you do that, you're no longer the sufferer. You are the enlightened witness, because the sufferer is running away from it. The sufferer is going, how do I not suffer? But you've just switched roles. You have now started to embrace that which was apparently causing the suffering and find that it's not causing the suffering. The reaction to it is. You've switched directions. You're moving towards it. Love, compassion, patience, acceptance. Just let it be there. Say yes to it. You'll feel a strong impulse to want to get away from it, but notice that too is the sufferer. The sufferer is not a person, it's not a thing. It's simply automatic behavior that kicks in, and then our sense of self bestows upon that a sense of personhood. There's no person there. All of this is a bunch of reactive patterns. Something happened, maybe a real event, a heartbreak or something, real, right? And now the way that is processed will be conditioning, and that's where the sufferer comes in. But if you step out of that and go directly towards it with compassion and love, conditioning can't do that. The sufferer can't do that. The ego cannot do that. But you can, which means in the very act of doing this, you are not the sufferer, you are not the ego, and you're not your conditioning. Now just stay present with it. And notice that when your attention is simply on the sensations themselves, with no story, with no narrative, just pure sensation, it may be uncomfortable, it may be, even painful, but not suffering. Are you following this? Please let me know if you're following this, because I don't want this to go. Let's see. CPTSD still ruling. Okay, let me go back here, make sure I got you on this, Janali. No, I should know better. With 50 years and so many awakenings, I am the self, not the separate me, but it's still suffering. Yes, it's okay. The knowledge that you have gained, this knowing, we're now working together to bring it here, bring it into the body, into the feelings, right? Because this is the process. And then the mind beats you up. Hey, you should know better, for crying out loud. Look at all the awakenings you have. Boy, what a dud. Boy, give it up, right? Boy, what a great friend, right? the encouraging word. You are the self that will never change, right? Suffering is not someone who's suffering. It is a sense of suffering, which is a experience of resistance to what is. And the resistance is there because the story that has been created about what is being experienced. Now, if the story about what was experienced was true, the resistance would be appropriate, but it's not true. And this act of simply putting attention back there, noticing like in PTSD, it's simply an automatic response. That's all it is. There's nothing magic about it. Everything is PTSD. Everything is a programmed response to particular events. Right? And particular events do cause trauma, which is something embodied in the nervous system. So they can persist for a while. So, but the moment you put your attention, give it to it. Stop running away from it. And enter in the place that I call the peacemaker, where the reactions and feelings and sensations are there, and you're noticing the habit energy wanting to engage you and pull you into the story. If you stay here as the peacemaker, right, you are now in the power seat. Right? You're not denying the experience. We're not trying to explain it away like some kind of metaphysical or non-dual nonsense. But we're not at the same time giving identification and energy to what in fact is just a reactive pattern, an arbitrary reactive pattern left over from whenever the event was that caused the PTSD. And we all have PTSD from childhood. We all went through that. Okay, so by putting your attention back on it, not denying that this is there, not trying to make it go away, recognizing it for what it is. Right? This is also the awakened place. Right? This is where you really, the awakenings that you have experienced take deep root. And the identification really begins to dissolve. Simple presence. This is the feeling that's there. And it's just that feeling. There were these reactive patterns and resistance, of course. When I couldn't deal with those feelings, I needed to suppress them or resist them or go somewhere else, but I don't need that anymore. Now I'm looking right at them. They're like little wounded kids. They're like a rescue dog, right? Needing love. I need to feed them and take care of them, right? And be present for them. And notice how the story just begins to fall away. This doesn't take a lot of work, because you are the self. This process, once you've really begun to engage in it, happens very quickly, right? Because you don't have to redeem the self. You are the self, and that truth is what's actually guiding this whole process. Is that helping, Janalya Devi? Did I say that right too? Let's see. There was more from Susan. The more I tried to regain peace, the worse it got. But that's exactly the same life voice that says work harder, isn't it? Your answer helped a lot. Thank you. You're very welcome. Yay. Let's see. Scroll back a bit. Go back home. Robbie, IG, my mind is mostly very quiet, but my body seems to hold a lot of suffering. I'm aware of being aware, yet I don't feel the happiness I seem to see on your face and other teachers. It's okay. Happiness is not a feeling. Right? I am happiness. Right? Even when I'm pissed off and I'm irritated, I get up in the morning and I don't feel good. I'm happiness. Happiness is my nature. That's ananda. That's bliss. Being, consciousness, bliss. You cannot separate them. This is simply something to be known, to be accepted in faith. That is, the perception of a reality that is not visible to the senses. And even your feelings of great elation are transient. They're an illusion. They just come and go. So the feeling of happiness will come and go. It's very inappropriate to feel happy at a funeral. So you don't want to be happy there as an emotional state. The proper thing is to be respectful and if somebody close, grieve until the grief has been completely expelled from the system. Yet underneath is just an equanimity, a contentment, a peace, right? That isn't fluctuating, but upon which all the fluctuations can happen. You know, like sound needs air, right? It moves through the air. So all experience, all emotion, sensation, and thought are vibrations moving through the medium of consciousness. Right? And of course, the wave is the air, right? It's not separate from it. And so the waves of vibration within consciousness that make all of creation are made of consciousness. It is consciousness. That's all there is. And that's you. So be present with the body. The body's not holding suffering. Suffering is purely the reaction of the mind. It is resistance to what is being felt. So it's not holding suffering. It's holding energy that it has not been safe enough for it to discharge. That's it. That's what a trauma is. That's what PTSD is. That's what all of these things are. It is the body holding on, right, to protect itself because the environment is not safe enough for it to let go. So what you think your job's going to be? Make it safe for it to let go. Now, as long as we're trying to fix it and change it and do stuff to it and run away from it, resist it, get rid of the suffering, it's going to feel attacked. It's just going to double down, right? Because it's like, it's not safe. If it doesn't trust you, if you're the one doing it, it can't surrender to you. How do you make yourself safe? Well, exactly what I was talking about before earlier with Janali, and I think it was Susan, to turn towards it lovingly and be willing to be present with the distress the way you would be a rescue dog or a scared child, right? Something that has been abused, right? You don't force abused people to start trusting. You make it so safe and loving that they can't help it. The defenses come down. Lately, I've gotten really, I've enjoyed watching a lot of stories of animals being rescued in various circumstances, including in the Ukraine, places where people just had to flee and the animals are still wandering around, and to watch how they respond, right? To watch them cowering and just sitting there, and then very quickly just full of love, full of all over them. They just can't get enough. And you see the tail start wagging, and it's just stunning to see. And this is what it is. You must treat the body like a rescue dog. And so it's got all these patterns in there that it developed when it was being abused, right? And unwittingly, by this constant attempt to fix ourselves and improve and make things better, we are sustaining that environment of abuse. I know we don't want to. We think we're helping. But in fact, the opposite is true. We're literally maintaining the very environment that put it in that state in the first place. Love, redeem all beings from suffering. Then you'll see clearly that no being has been redeemed, that these were nothing but, there was never really the body, the rescued dog that needed to be rescued. It was a bunch of functions. It was a bunch of programmed responses, and there was never anybody there. The programmed responses, the functioning, had projected upon it the idea of a self, the idea of a person. Excuse me. And then we believe this person to be real, and we think, oh, that's the one that's suffering. There is no one suffering, right? And the more I am disidentified with that, the more directly I perceive what's really here. And you'll find that there's pain, there's withdrawal, there's contraction, but there isn't a sufferer. And with that knowledge coming into it, you come walking in as the light, as the great heart of Christ, as the pure, forgiving presence, because the persecutor is gone. Nothing is abusing them anymore. I guess that's a way to put it. So don't reach for happiness. I think it was Shunzi. He said, the only way to know happiness is to stop looking for it. Stop looking for a feeling. If you look for a feeling, your mind will immediately try to take steps to create that feeling. Like peace. What do I do now? How do I get the peace back? How do I get the happiness back? Oh, that was great. I liked it. How do I get that back? And the mind gets engaged in problem solving. And happiness becomes a goal. And the mind loves that. And even, enlightenment, that's it. That's it. Okay, we're going to go for enlightenment now. And, your mind will love it. And it'll keep you seeking for enlightenment for 10 lifetimes. Because it doesn't want to find it. It doesn't actually want it. It wants to look for it. You don't need to look for it. You are it. And just notice how all the different ways in which you look to something to give you happiness. And just pull back. You can feel that there'll be some resistance to that. So, what do you mean? It's going to want that grabbiness. That's greed, by the way. It's not just the multi-billionaires. It's anytime we look for happiness outside of ourselves. We reach for something to give us something because we don't think we have it. That's greed. That's how Buddha used that word. That's the meaning he gave it. Very obvious, very pervasive, much more subtle than just the kind of overt avarice that none of us here have, right? That kind of extreme. Right? But it's not that. It's far more subtle. You can get blown into the proportions that we're seeing, right? But in essence, anytime we look to something outside of ourselves for happiness or anything at all, that is greed. And that is suffering. Is that helping you, Robbie? I can relate to Susan's panic, says Plan. It happened to me before. It's too damn quiet. What the hell's wrong? Yes. Not only that, you might find yourself getting bored with it. Okay, it's peaceful, but no. What's on Netflix? Think of this whole thing as a very fun game, right? And you've got the perfect adversary, right? Who just knows how to trip you up at everything. And the whole point is to become it be impossible for you to be tripped up anymore. And even then, you're going to see the mind or the adversary. It's not as the enemy, right? It's fascinating in the whole. What Christianity has done to the idea of the devil, Satan, and all that is such a huge distortion. If you look at all the original where it appears in the Old Testament, God and Satan are working together all the time, or Lucifer, or whatever. It's later on, there's the war in heaven, but that's not even referring to the same guy. I mean, God was in on it. He and Satan had a bet about Job. He had this. He put the snake in the garden, right? Of course, it's a different metaphor, but people have associated that with the devil, the suggesting voice. You'll find it. It's like, oh, bring it on. Yeah. Come on, let's tussle. You won't mind. You simply won't mind. Blinky Boo, If I think of the word home, it's a return to a place that is known, but presently unknown. Yes, it is known and unknown. But once you're there, it's like, oh yeah, duh. Of course, I know every detail of this. Right, I just forgot. There's Susan. I think I got to the second half. There's Robbie. Janali. Oh, I've skipped back up. I'll have to catch replay. Oh, bye-bye, Mary. GP, to tell you what is not clear, I must repeat the second. I will write in the comment tomorrow because I even can't repeat the last part of the statement. I'll re-listen to this tomorrow, and write in the comment. May I do like that? Don't write in the comment here. Send me an email instead, right? Because I usually don't go back to look at these comments after the live thing, and they're kept separately from this. So send it to my email. You can send it to the Abbott email, to questions, or to support. I got a bunch. It's late in Poland, yeah. Wow, says Brent. Thank you, G. You're welcome. Jose Turla, thank you, G. Just joined this live when you mentioned this is home. Watching here from Bohol, Philippines. Wonderful. Wonderful. This is home. Yeah. Just see it and stand prior, separate from it, but compassionate towards it. Deny. Separate from it, but compassionate towards it. If there's that subtle, okay, I'm standing aloof from it. I want it to go away. It still got you, right? Love, 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 and more love. You see it. You're not identifying with it anymore, but you're compassionate towards it. There's something hurt there that needs your love. We don't need to shy away from this. This is the saving of all beings from suffering. It needs your love. It needs to be brought into the light. The beings don't have to be other people. They can be animals. They can be your own body. Because they are the beings. Your body is made up of literally 100 trillion little beings. Cells are living beings. They're not little robots. Right? I mean, this is just a walking zoo. I mean, it's just trillions upon trillions of living beings all dancing together to give you a vehicle for self-expression. What a wonder. Wow. So, beautiful, Janelle. Andrew, from personal experience, the path, as you say, is definitely getting sweeter and seems unstoppable. No sudden blinding realizations, but lots of lovely glimpses. All the best. I like that. Sometimes those blinding realizations, those blinding things don't last. I much rather see the kind of gradual unfoldment. It tends to have more stability to it. It's kind of like some of the huge awakenings. It's like doing ayahuasca or something. Huge insights, but they don't last, right? They need another foundation. And of course, once you have that foundation, you don't need you don't need Aya anymore. You don't need Ma. You don't need Grandma anymore. Gibu, I have experienced homelessness physically, and it took a long time to embrace any sense of home. But it took experiencing homelessness to embrace any sense of home where it truly mattered. Albeit extreme, this storyline. Yes, sometimes it does take that. Yes, sometimes it does take that. But as Janali says, I'll keep on. Janalio Devi. Oh, even more poetic. Shanalio Devi. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I'll just keep on observing, not naming. Observing, it is a compassionate, affectionate detachment. Oh, getting a high 10 from Roberto. How about that? Oh, man. bordering on the two, home and homelessness, existence and non-existence. Yes. Well, we all are, right? Because our true home is here. And yet we're engaged in this as a home. This is the temporary manifestation of the home. Just remain connected to the home. Right? That's the substance of things hoped for. Whatever appears is made of that. Right? So be home, right here where you belong. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're good. Here's A. How to discern between thought and the self. Isn't the self-recognition a thought as well? No, it's not. And this is the wonder of it. And it's something to ponder. Mooji refers to it as a non-phenomenal recognition. And this is the easiest way to get close to it. Do you exist? Of course, your answer is going to be yes. Are you aware of that existence? Of course, you couldn't answer yes if you weren't aware of it. Okay? Now, is this awareness of your existence a phenomenon? Are you witnessing yourself from another place and saying, I exist? You'd have two. What is it that's recognizing that you are? Your simple being, which is you, and therefore cannot be perceived as any object out there. Now, any other object would be a recognition of something. Anything else, a thought, a feeling, anything that is experienced. Okay? But that which is having the experience can't be perceived. Are you not viscerally aware of that? You are directly, because it's what you are. So it is you recognizing you directly, non-phenomenally, non-dually. A direct perception of yourself that is not to. This is the whole meaning of Advaita, not to. So my recognition of myself is myself. They are not two. Being and knowing are one. And notice that simple being and awareness is also infinitely silent. It has almost a feel to it. Except it's not a feeling. Everything else is experienced. And at first, the proper way to regard it is not me. And that's just to transcend just the habit of identification with what is experienced and the mind's habit of creating a sense of self out of a story. Once that has really been transcended and you abide here, you can now see that everything that you used to think was other and that you disidentified is in fact yourself. But now you see it all not through the eyes of a person, one thing looking at another, but even that you see is yourself knowing yourself. And every object becomes the very act of knowing. The entire universe is your knowingness, is you knowing you non-phenomenally, because nothing exists other than you. There is no phenomena to appear. That's where it ultimately goes to, wherever you are on that line. Okay? But just notice that your sense of self is not objective or subjective. It is not phenomenal. It is not you witnessing something else. It is an instant, unified, intuitive knowing. Indivisible. Irreducible. You follow that? Everybody follow that? Rosalind, good vibes. So experiencing the sensation switches the role of suffering. Yes, the sensation's there because of resistance. Making peace with the story dissolves the hold and opens awareness, feels safe to let go. I think I'm understanding how the model of the harmonious human explains suffering. Is the nervous system and the tribe part of this model? Yes, very much. Matter of fact, the nervous system is the tribe. The tribe is all of the experience, right? And the sense of self-protection, which is the heart and soul of the nervous system. So when you simply experience the sensation as sensation with no story, right? Suffering is removed from the mix because there's no resistance to it, right? And the sensation is there. It may not there because of resistance. Resistance is a reaction to it. There can't be a resistance without something to resist. So the sensation comes first. And when it comes, it's pure experience, right? It has no meaning, it has no purpose, it has no identification, it has no associations, it has no memories, nothing. It's just experience. Boom. Right? And then immediately the cascade starts, right? All the reactive patterns, all the predefined responses, programmed patterns, all including thought, emotion, and other sensations, all start happening. What we're doing is we're putting ourselves right in the middle, the event and the trigger, and doing this. And now all of a sudden, the resistance isn't immediately happening. The story isn't immediately happening, and you remain completely present with the sensation as it actually is, which opens the door to seeing it as it actually is, and the elimination of all suffering. So the nervous system, which I keep referring to, right, is really how the energy and life and everything works to create forms. And once a form comes into existence, which is of course a process, it's never anything, right? I mean, Buckminster Fuller referred to it as pattern integrity. It kind of holds the same patterns. It doesn't change so quickly, you know, that the horse, you know, becomes a spaceship. Right? There's a gradual transformation, at least from our perception. Right? And so that whole mechanism is what is the energy system, and the specifics of how that manifests in the human form is what I call the nervous. That is the nervous system, right? That is everything. That is this whole capacity of life to create automatic responses to all sorts of different events happening in the environment, because it's intimately connected to the environment. It's one with the environment, for the purpose of keeping the organism safe, stabilized. That's it. Later on arises the sense of self, which then wrongly identifies with this functioning, and that is the birth of the person, or the ego, which doesn't really exist. It is a projection upon a functioning, and the functioning does not have sentience or consciousness. It is in consciousness. And sentience is what's looking at it. And so when I start talking about the chakras, I'm talking about these different kinds of energies that are native to life, at least the first three, which form that part which we have to regard as instinctual, our animal nature, right? And that is the drive for safety, the desire for desire, pleasure, engagement, life, zest, all of that kind of stuff, sex, bonding, right? Another level other than just mere survival. It goes up a level, more like all mammals have bonds and relationships and that sort of thing. The next level, the third chakra, is the ego, the sense of self. And as that emerges, it identifies itself with the animal nature. And it is unconscious. It cannot see its way. It cannot see its way out of its own thing, because that's all it is. It is part of the same mechanism. Now, that sense of egoic self does not exist in any creature except the human being. But the next level that wakes up, which may wake up in this lifetime, it may not, it can go for many, many lifetimes, and it doesn't, is the level of the heart. This is exactly what I keep referring to, the peacemaker. It's the insight that can go back into the animal and begin to distinguish what is real and what isn't, and withdraw that sense of identity out of the animal and send it on its way into the level of spiritual being, up to the Godhead. So that's the process that I do. Archetypically, I use the chakras to illustrate that process, which is really how Joseph Campbell did it too. That was the animal, and that this was this connection. That's what the snakes coiled mean. They were a symbol of immortality, and it referred to the rebirth, the snake shedding its skin as it begins to emerge into the realm of the spiritual. This is the rebirth. This is the resurrection. Just this transition point is just everywhere in the mist. This is the crucifixion and the resurrection. Anyway, I could go off on that, and I only have 8 minutes. So I hope that covers it for you. Good vibes. Robbie, greed is looking for happiness outside of ourselves. Wow. That's brilliant, G. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes. Brings it right home, doesn't it? You'll be more aware of your own. You'll be taking that sliver out of your own eye before we're starting accusing all the greedy bastards out there, which they are, but we're not going to get anywhere by just yelling at them for being greedy bastards. Pull that sliver out of your own eye, and you find out how subtle it actually is. Brent, hey GP, very helpful explanation. Brett, I struggle knowing when it's appropriate to observe the distress and tension in the body, and when to simply say present as the I am. When you are observing the distress in the body, even if you are aware of how much you want to get away from it or grab onto it, and all of the reactions, then you are being present as the I am. Right? You don't, being present as the I am doesn't mean simply sitting there chanting Om and not feeling anything. You're always the I am. All you have to do is become, oh yes, I am. I am observing distress and tension. Oh, still the I am. Look at that. And when I hear the thought, do I stay present as I am? I'm hearing that. Oh, look, I am still here. Well, look at that. I ain't gone nowhere. So when anything comes up and gets your attention, you say, when is it appropriate? Whenever something needs your attention and you can give it. Sometimes something comes up and you're in the middle of a meeting or giving a presentation. You just kind of, not right now. Thank you very much. You're in charge here. Okay. But when something comes up, treat it as if it was a rescue dog. Something needs your attention, and just give it the attention. Don't have to make a big deal out of it. Don't have to turn it into a whole process. Sometimes some processing is needed because it can be intense or chronic or recurring a lot. Then we may need to, but it's always walking this line between just as much as needed and not turning it into a thing, right? Oh, no, I got to process this distress. Oh, what happened to me in my past life that I've got all this tension in? The mind will just love to create a whole story that perpetuates it. We need to do the bare minimum. This is the lazy man's religion, right? The bare minimum. Thanks, Brett. I hope that helps. Hi, GP says, oh, I missed one. You made me realize I've been greedy looking for happiness, and so now feel happy. This feeling will pass too, though. I get it. Yeah. Jana Leo. Thank you, GP. Compassionate love for it. Rescue the child. Yes. Notice what that feels like when you shift from being somebody trying to fix a problem to somebody who's actually fixing the problem. And somebody who is walking powerfully and compassionately into a room full of distress with light and love and patience and power. What does that feel like? Completely different. Yeah. Just a shift in perception. That's all it takes. Robbie, greedy Robbie. Hi, Katie. Hi, GP. Sometimes I feel anger after feeling a sad emotion. Am I best to embrace the angry feeling too, to get past it? Or what would you suggest? Whatever's here is here. Right? Does it do any good to not embrace it? Does it do any good to fight it? Goddamn anger, get away. Right? Or feel sad. Oh, I shouldn't have felt angry. Notice that's all just spiritual gobbledygook. That's somebody who said spiritual people never get angry. Bullshit. Even Ramana lost his temper for crying out loud. I'm sure Buddha did too, right? We have such an idealized idea of what awakened beings are. They're people, right? Who know who they are and having the same human experience you are, but without suffering. That's it. They don't see it the same way. They see a unity with it, a oneness with it, and thus the beauty and flow of it, and thus no fear of it. So if anger is present, it's already done. Awareness has already let it in, right? And notice that anything that doesn't want to embrace it came later. It's already here. All right, here you are. It's like somebody shows up at your door, right? What? You shouldn't be here. Oh, they already are. Okay, what are you going to do? All right. So now, if there's a sense, though, that there is you, and then there's simply the anger coming up, right, for whatever reason, and that's part of the programming, that's part of this whole energy system, and you're simply the witness of it, at that point, it's lost its sting. Because sometimes it'll come up and then a thought will cascade off of that, right? Oh, you shouldn't be feeling angry, right? That's not very spiritual. That's not very good. Oh, are you following? That's part of the program. If you see that, you just say, all right, well, anger's come up. Okay. And just be with it. If it's got a story to tell, it'll tell. If it doesn't have a story, it'll just fade away. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes feelings come up and they have no cause, right? It's just like things converged, up came a feeling, The clouds came together, the temperature dropped, it rained, right? Why did it happen? Because this came together. Is there some great plan that it needed to rain? No. The moisture was there, the temperature dropped, it rained. That's what happens, right? So sometimes just our everyday life, something's going to come up that's a feeling. Mine will go, ooh, wow, that feeling, I shouldn't have that if it was. The whole story about it, right? So step one is completely take away all meaning from it. Anger's present, anger's present. Now, if there is some kind of residue of the past, some energy that needs to be resolved, it'll happen. You don't need to go looking for it. You don't have to dig it up. You don't have to you don't have to do any of that, right? Just stay present. Your presence is the healing power. The other word for presence is self-acceptance, unconditional love, the Godhead, Buddha nature, right? The heart of Christ. Ah, beautiful. Thank you, Katie. Jennifer, is it up to the person, or does the upbringing help allow someone to awakening? Please go for that again, a whale show. I'd love to know more about how we awaken as you just described. From our perspective of our experience, it is a combination of things. There is the disposition and natural tendencies of every individual form, right? I mean, I have natural inclinations towards, towards this, towards music, towards a bunch of things. I had no inclination towards, sports or academics or anything like that. So there is every human form. Now remember, you're not the form. You are the infinite formless. But the infinite formless expresses itself, manifests itself in form. The thing is, we identify with the form and forget that we're the infinite formless. That's the whole problem. So now the form arises, but it doesn't arise in a vacuum. It arises in an environment. And so the environment and the form, Buddha called it dependent arising. It all happens at once. And so there's not a separation between the person and the environment. That's an illusion, right? The person and the environment are one, right? It's a constant interaction, one influencing the other. And as the child, as you grow up, it's a constant dance to get to and maintain a stability. Once that stability is maintained, that's the programming. That's the programming, right? Is simply the body, which is also environment, right? You can see it's so intertwined. It's one thing, right? It's one thing. And so you have this self-modulating, self-adapting thing that is now both individual characteristics and environmental characteristics in a constant dance, and you can't, there's no point at which you can separate the two. Okay? So does, ultimately, I have to say, let me speak in the absolute. Nothing prepares you for the awakening because you don't awaken. The awakening is the eternal event that is always happening and is bringing about the circumstances that will manifest the awakening. The circumstances that manifest it are not the awakening. They're the manifestation of it. That's what Buddha meant when he says the personal realization of Buddha nature. It is the experience. It is the self-experience awakening, which it loves to do. Right. So nothing helps you, nothing doesn't help you. So if we say that it does, we've basically tied ourselves in a knot to thinking, boy, am I screwed. I'm going to have to have several more incarnations. I'm going to have to do a good job in this life so I earn a better incarnation. No. To have that belief will postpone, apparently, but you can't really do it. the whole thing. What helps you to awaken? Awakening does. You are the awakening, right? So don't think of anything that's helping you or hindering you, because you can see if there's something helping you, well, you're not there. If something's hindering you, you can't get there. Can you see you get stuck there when the fact is you are it and you're already there? It's just part of the subtle way the mind works to just keep you, come on, keep going, come on. Oh no, we're almost there. Look, no, don't look there. Look. Brett says it helps. Good. Please go for that whole show. I'd love to know more about how we awaken as you just described. Well, I'll make an excerpt of that and just kind of how the process works. But I do have that one course from delusion to awakening. It was like 4 years ago, so maybe I could update it or something. But a lot of people have taken it. Maybe you haven't, but please do. It's in Omschool, omschool.co. Blinky says, thanks, wonderful. Feeling much peace tonight. Thanks for satsang, says John. Thank you. Leon, I'm so grateful. Thank you, G, for great satsang once again. Oh, thank you. Ava, thank you, G. Your attention for everything I have been taught by you. Oh, my dear friend. Stuart, hi, be good to hear your thoughts on how energies change as you get older. As you become more present, is it natural that the construct starts to fall apart due to the lack of emotional engagement? Yes, you're it, says they. Yes, you are. It is natural, but it's not part of the aging process. It's part of the awakening process. Some people get old and they don't have a lack. They get more so. They get more attached to especially to ideas and beliefs, right? They get very attached to them and don't want anything to change them, right? So there's nothing special about aging. Although if you look really closely, you can find that which is never aged. I'm still surprised, right? I'm a 19-year-old kid wondering how he got stuck in a 70-year-old body. How'd this happen? I look in the mirror and go, that's not him. What'd you do to him? But there's nothing in this. This is all just the flow of life. And life never sits still. And never for what we call aging, because we don't like it, is in fact simply the forms running their course, and the energy that makes up that form is going to dissolve and be something else. That's all it is. But in fact, it never was anything in the first place, right? Everything is changing so constantly that you can never for one moment say anything actually exists. I don't care how thinly you slice time, you will find a flow. You will not find a thing. And so when we call aging and we have ideas about it, throw out all the ideas. And what is it? What is it? There's a change that's happening that's very, very beautifully gradual. Just beautiful the way it's happening, right? And it's inevitable that every form has a beginning. It's going to have an end. What is there to cry about? Nothing's dying. Nothing lived in the first place. Nothing was born. Nothing's going to die. Nothing exists at all except you. That's the reality. Everything else is an appearance of that. And on that note, I'm going to say good day to you all. So. Thank you all for being here. All my love to you. Namaste.